Hi, and welcome to Across the Desk. This week, we have Jason Bollinger here, and he's running for U.S. Senate against James Langford. And that's what we're going to have today, this week, right here on Across the Desk. So, Jason, thank you for coming to the show. I really appreciate it. I've been watching you. I've been watching you on social media and everywhere else, going to your campaign and checking it out. And I'm thrilled to have you on the show today. I really am. And we're going to talk about your campaign specifically for U.S. Senate. What can we know about you?
Sure. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. As you said, I am a Democrat running for the United States Senate here in Oklahoma. In the regular election, we have potentially both of our U.S. Senate seats on the ballot here in Oklahoma, but I am running for the seat currently occupied by James Langford. And so we launched our campaign back at the end of September and have been going strong since then. I am a lifelong Oklahoman. I grew up in Carter out in southwest Oklahoma in Beckham County. Graduated from Merritt High School in Elk City. I got my associate's degree at Southwestern in Sayre, and got my undergrad degree in accounting at OU. And then went on and got my law degree also at OU. And then spent some time in Washington, D.C. working at the State Department. Worked in the Office of the Legal Advisor there.
Now, when did you do that?
It was during the Trump administration. I was there during when both Tillerson and Pompeo were Secretaries of State, and through the transition. I worked in Office of the Legal Advisor, Office of International Claims and Investment Disputes, and so worked on issues involving NAFTA when we had NAFTA before the transition to USMCA. And then was part of the U.S. delegation to the Iran-U.S. Claims Tribunal, and so traveled to The Hague with the U.S. government to represent the government and litigate with the Iranians on a foreign military sales dispute that is many years running, and was honored to be a part of that. And then came back to Oklahoma City and joined a law firm here in Oklahoma City, and been practicing for a few years. And now I have my own law firm in downtown Oklahoma City.
All right. So you got roots here in Oklahoma that run pretty deep.
I do.
And you got some experience working on the national level at the U.S. Capitol and beyond.
Yes. Yes, I am a third generation Oklahoman. My dad is the city manager in the town where I grew up. My mom is a retired public school teacher. She taught for over 30 years. And so, yes,
in rural Oklahoma at that. That's where you grew up. That's where you were from.
Yes, my school had about 650 students K through 12. I graduated in a class of 37. Was valedictorian of my graduating class, and very proud of my rural roots. And we launched our campaign out in Carter, Oklahoma, where I grew up. I was really happy to be able to go back there and to launch the campaign there, and just to meet with people who I've known my whole life, and explain to them why I'm running, and to talk to them about issues affecting them, and how the U.S. Senate can work for them, and also to, that's obviously a really conservative part of the state, and so wanted to go and explain to them why I'm running as a Democrat. And what I see that the Democrats can do for rural Oklahoma and Oklahoma in general that's not being done.
Yeah, and so how is the campaign going in those respects? I mean, you're getting around the state, obviously. You're going to some of the big cities, of course, I suppose. Yeah. Is there any points that you would like to talk about as far as your campaigning's been going so far?
Sure. So it's been going great. We have been all around the state, obviously spending a lot of time in Oklahoma City and Tulsa and Cleveland County, where most of the Democrats are clustered, but we've been intentional about getting out into the rural areas. I've been to a lot of the county Democratic Party meetings. We've been from Beckham, Roger Mills County all the way to Cherokee County, Washington County up in the northeastern part of the state, and we've got more scheduled. And so I think it's really important not to forget about the folks in the rural areas. And as someone who grew up there, I certainly see the importance of that. And I think Democrats do a disservice to ourselves when we're running, but also just a disservice to our state by forgetting about folks outside of the major cities.
Yeah, we do tend to think about inner city a lot, urban renewal and stuff like that, more than we do concentrate on rural issues. Unless here lately it's been with the school issue, you know, and we're like, oh, hey, vouchers don't work for people in rural areas. But if it's something other than that, yeah, you're right. We should probably do a lot better job. Now, you're also breaking cross-party lines as well, right? You have endorsements from Republicans, right?
Yes, so we've gotten a lot of Republican support for our campaign. Several prominent Republicans around the state who have given max contributions to our campaign. And these are folks who are just really tired of the direction of the Republican Party and just tired of politics as usual in D.C. You know, people who are concerned about limited government, concerned about fiscal responsibility, but they don't identify with the noise on both sides, with you know, the social issues that the media tells us are what divides people. And so much of what we see here in Oklahoma does not equate with what the national media is telling us. We are not as divided here in Oklahoma as our politicians and as the national media tells us we are.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. And I've heard that before, that we're not so different after all. A Democrat in Oklahoma isn't much like a Democrat from like New York. They're pretty much different.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm born and raised here, generations. Yeah, I'm a Democrat. I own firearms and stuff like that. You know, I like to hunt and fish. You know, and there's some things that I probably wouldn't line up with a Democrat from New York. Some I probably would. But yeah, it's a whole different ball game. But you're right. They like to divide us to show a difference, make a contrast, get people in their separate groups so that they can be less powerful that way.
Well, and you know, it's about control. It's about power. And you're right. I think an Oklahoma Democrat is different, but it's about we have different priorities.
Yeah.
You know, yes, we care about quality health care, quality public schools, environment, ensuring that regardless of your zip code, everyone has access to economic opportunity and good public schools. But yes, Democrats in Oklahoma, many of them own guns. Do Democrats want people to be responsible with their guns? Absolutely.
Exactly.
But there are Republicans, many of whom share the same beliefs and ideals. And as we said, we're just not that different.
And I gotta say, that makes you the moderate in this race. Because when it comes to James Lankford, he's way out there. He doesn't have any Democratic support, much less some Republican at that, as we've been seeing. And I thought there was something interesting in the Tulsa world maybe a month or two ago. They did a poll, like they took a national polling, and they showed James Lankford really only lines up with maybe 20% of the whole USA electorate, which isn't very much. You know.
And you know, I think as James Lankford has been in Congress and in the Senate, he's continued to move further and further to the right. In his own primary, I think we're seeing him moving further to the right and in order to compete. And you know, James Lankford at the end of the day is not in tune with everyday Oklahomans and Oklahomans' values and what's important to us.
Not really.
The guy grew up in Dallas. He's
not from Oklahoma.
He's not. He went to the University of Texas. He came to Oklahoma to work at a summer camp, but now he lives in Edmond when he's here, but he's not here that often. He's in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere. You know, he's raising money for his campaign all around the
many
country.
pictures I've seen down at the border, it seems like he's in Texas quite a lot.
He's in Texas a lot, yes. And, you know, immigration is obviously an important issue. I think it's an economic issue for us here in Oklahoma. But I've been to the southern border. I've seen what's going on there firsthand. That's not where our crisis lies. Regardless of what James Lankford says, that's
it's more of an international issue, is it? I mean, these are people coming from other war-torn places and economic depressed places to get in through our border. And not necessarily from Mexico, but from other places coming through Mexico, because Mexico is ending up saying, hey, we got the same problem you guys do.
Right.
You know.
Right, and they're fleeing danger. They're in search of economic opportunity, and I can say as an attorney who has represented someone seeking to immigrate to the United States legally, it's a really difficult process.
Yeah.
If you don't have the resources, meaning tens of thousands of dollars, and ability to hire an attorney,
yeah,
it's one of those situations where you almost just can't do it. And so, in my view, yes, we have an immigration problem here in the United States, and we have to reform our immigration system, but standing down at the southern border and making videos in the dark of night is not how it gets done.
No, that's not it. That's just theater. That's
It
all
is.
that is.
It is.
It's not doing anything.
Right.
There's no policy. I haven't seen any. I've seen just not necessarily the guy you're running against, but many Republicans and conservatives screaming about it. But then you never see any action from them. You never see a bill or anything else.
Yeah, and it is a difficult issue. It's really divisive. It's a hot button issue, and so we always see it come up in election years.
Do you think that's maybe why they don't want to fix it?
Because
it's divisive and it works for them so
well?
I
think it does work for them well. It gets people really riled up. But I think that's another reason I'm running. We have to get qualified people into our government who can actually solve these problems and who want to solve these problems rather than just being there to power grab and to be famous and to make sound bites for the media.
Yeah.
And I think in this Democratic primary that is important too. We need to look at who is the most qualified not only to be our next United States Senator, but most qualified to take on James Lankford or whoever is the Republican nominee in November. Because let's be honest, as Democrats, this is a tough race.
It is.
Running statewide as a Democrat is tough, and so we need the person who can stand toe-to-toe with James Lankford on policy, the person who understands our Constitution, the person who knows how our government processes work, who's worked in our government. And so that's another reason I got into this, because I feel like having grown up in rural southwest Oklahoma, being a practicing attorney in Oklahoma City, having worked at the State Department in Washington, D.C., traveled with our government to The Hague, I have a diverse background that gives me a unique perspective.
I think so. It gives you unique qualifications for the seat you're running for.
Right.
I actually believe that.
Yeah, it definitely does. And there are so many issues right now that, as I've talked to folks across the state, people are tired of the noise in Washington and the noise here in Oklahoma, and there are issues that we've got to address. In rural areas in particular, it's education, it's education funding, it is making sure that when the federal government provides funding to the state for education, that the money's getting to where it's supposed to go. It's making sure Oklahomans are getting their fair share of funding from the federal government, and then infrastructure is so important to the state of Oklahoma.
That's what I was thinking, especially in rural areas.
It is.
Because you've got to go miles sometimes to do stuff. And we got farms out there. They got to have the infrastructure too. So that brings up another point about agriculture. I guess being a rural guy like yourself, you probably have talked to a lot of farmers too and stuff like that. Yeah. What do they got? What do they have to say? What's their issues?
Well, the farmers are concerned about infrastructure. They're also concerned about the Farm Bill. That in 2023, it's time for renewal of the Farm Bill, which would be the first year of my first term. And we currently don't have a U.S. Senator on the Farm Committee. And James Lankford is not qualified to represent our farmers in Oklahoma on the Farm Committee. Being a lifelong Oklahoman and someone who grew up in rural Oklahoma, I had friends who, worked in the peanut fields, the wheat fields. There was a grain elevator just down the street from my house. I have connections to the literal experts here in Oklahoma who can help advise me and tell me what we need here in Oklahoma. And so it's crucial to our future as a state and to our country.
Oh yeah, agriculture is one of the top industries here in Oklahoma, top 3 at least, if not second, behind oil, I'm sure.
It is.
Another thing, on your campaign, how is it going with Democrats themselves? Are you excited about your campaign? You got volunteers, people signing up to volunteer for you, knock doors, all that stuff. How's that going?
Yeah, we do. We recently opened our campaign office, and we've got volunteers in there working. We've got interns. We're of course always looking for more. So I want everyone to get involved. I would love to have. We're building our infrastructure statewide, and so
it's right here. I'm putting it right here, tile right here, telling you exactly where you can go to get involved with his campaign. Another great resource would probably be the Oklahoma Democratic Party, because they have a whole page where they're looking for volunteers, and they can set you up with Jason's campaign as well.
Absolutely.
So if you're very interested in getting involved, especially this political season, sign up to something, help somebody knock some doors, make some phone calls. It really makes a difference.
It does. There is so much work to do, especially in a statewide race like this. We need a variety of perspectives, a variety of skill sets, and so this is not something I can do alone.
And the other thing you need, though, it costs a lot of money to run a campaign.
We're looking at, we need millions of dollars to get this done statewide, and as Democrats, it's tough to compete with someone like James Langford, who's raising thousands per day. But that means we've got to outwork him. We've got to raise the money, and we've got to outwork him. And so, yes, truly, every donation helps. You can donate online through our website. You can obviously mail in donations, but whether it's $5 or $500, every bit of it truly helps.
Every bit helps.
And this,
anything
I will say,
we can do.
It is a grassroots campaign. We are funding our campaign just from everyday Oklahomans who are looking for change.
Excellent. And there will be, like I said, I put the tiles here for you guys to go check it out. And at the end of the show, I always put a title screen where you can always find the information too. Anything else? That we can talk about?
Sure. I want everyone to get involved. This is an important election year. It's going to be an exciting election year here in Oklahoma. Potentially, depending on what the courts say on the other race, we're going to have every seat in our federal delegation open this year.
Oh, wow.
And so we have a great opportunity here in Oklahoma this year for change. We saw what Georgia did in 2020. I think we need Democrats here in Oklahoma to engage and to get out and work like they did in Georgia, and we can pull off something similar.
We can definitely do something.
Yeah.
And I know the Oklahoma Democratic Party, they're all in. They're really trying. They're really trying to get people signed up, and stop that purge of Democratic voters, and try to get more signed up, and actually try to get more people to volunteer.
Sure.
And I really hope that your campaign does great. I really hope it does great things. I love what it's doing so far. I've been watching you and everything else.
Sure.
I'm so thrilled to have you here, actually. I'm just to have you in person.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you, and I appreciate the time. And I also want to say before we close, our campaign also, while number one priority is all about doing what's best for Oklahomans, regardless of party, just getting the work done and governing, we have the opportunity here to make history. I am once nominated by the Democratic Party. I will be the first openly gay nominee for U.S. Senate from the state of Oklahoma, and then potentially the first openly gay U.S. Senator from the state of Oklahoma. And so it's time we make history in Oklahoma, and I'm looking forward to doing it.
Oh, I think it's great. I would love to see you as our as a first gay senator from Oklahoma, U.S. Senator. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great. This is Across the Desk. This is Jason Bollinger. I was having problems with that earlier. Bollinger, Jason Bollinger, U.S. Senator, our next U.S. Senator, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you for being here on Across the Desk. I really appreciate it so much. And we'll see you guys next week.